Hi, I'm Jules and I'm designing a theme park based on American folklore called Urban Legends America. It's impossible to have a park based on legends without sharing said tales, which is why I'm starting a new series called Creature Feature. Thanks to my sister, she has supplied this week's poll options and my Patreon members for voting on this video's topic. Now, grab your snacks and join me as we delve into the story of the Candy Lady. It's unclear who first discovered the odd phenomenon, but the children of Terrell, Texas began finding candy on their windowsills. Each night, a piece of candy was left for the sleeping children. The kids didn't know where the candy came from, but being young and naive, they didn't bother to ask too many questions, and they certainly didn't tell their parents. Initially, the gifts of candy were well received. The stranger who left the candy started leaving notes asking the kids to come and play. Still, the kids remained oblivious and didn't say anything to their parents. They believed the notes were charming with the pretty handwriting, and the candy was delightful. Unfortunately, the children were too young to recall Clara.
Before we get any further into this video, I just want to take a moment to thank my folklore enthusiasts for today's video. For $5 a month, you can be part of the club while also getting your name in my videos just like this, but you also get some more benefits like behind the scenes content, polling on future videos, as well as a postcard that's designed by me and sent to you, and it looks something like this. And basically it just showcases a different cryptid or an urban legend from each state with a little blurb on the back, and I keep it blank so that you have the option to either send it out if you'd like, or you can just collect them. But there is also a option to be a free member. I try to post pretty often for everybody because I just want to build up the community and have a conversation with all of you. So if you like what I'm doing and you would like to support me, please click the link to my Patreon in the description below. Okay, thank you once more to these wonderful people. Now let's get back into this video.
Clara Kane, a woman born in 1871, once called the peaceful town of Terrell, Texas, home. She was married to Leonard Gilbert Crane, and together they had a daughter named Marcella. Leonard made a living as a farmer, but tragedy struck when Marcella died in a field accident at the young age of 5. After Clara discovered that Leonard had been drinking during the accident that caused her death, she held him responsible. Her grief consumed her for 2 years until she decided to take matters into her own hands. Clara laced her husband's beloved caramels with poison, leading to his untimely demise. The next day, a concerned neighbor visited Clara after noticing her shaken and frenzied state. Clara's aggression towards County Sheriff Fred Springer led to her arrest. Subsequently, she was put on trial for first-degree murder. She pled grief-related insanity and was institutionalized in the North Texas Lunatic Asylum, currently called the Terrell State Hospital. Now, the dates here differ. Some stories recall that due to overcrowding, she was eventually released in 1899. Others say that there is no record of her after her 1889 release, believing she came back home to Terrell. But it is unanimous that in 1903, disappearances of children around the abandoned Crane property began. The children, discovering candy wrappers on their windowsills, bore the signature and the name of the Candy Lady. Jeb Smith was tending his field when he spotted something shiny in the sunlight. Upon closer inspection, he found 10 candy wrappers scattered on the ground. Curiously, he picked them up and discovered that each one held tiny teeth. Although he was frightened, Jeb immediately ran for the sheriff to report this shocking discovery. The sheriff had been working tirelessly to locate the missing children. Tragically, the sheriff's body was later discovered in a ditch. Forks were stabbed in his eyes and his pockets were stuffed with candy, and then the abduction ceased. Although life had returned to normal in Terrell and children stopped receiving window candy, the legend of the Candy Lady continued. So let's talk about where the Candy Lady could be in Urban Legends America. Part of Disney Imagineering focuses on how the guest feels in the theme park. Especially in Disneyland or Disney World, they want their guests to feel like they are the main character. They're supposed to be focusing on each guest is their own main character, and they have a story and it's directly happening to them as they're visiting the park. And that's supposed to be the main focus that I want every guest to have. And that is because I want them to be the people that seek out these cryptids and these legends. So, what I'm thinking for the park is that it could be a dark ride that shares her story, but it's mostly you finding her or you going through this story because we already know we're plopped in the middle of it. So I think the best way to go about this is a dark ride, because a dark ride is predominantly indoors. It's attraction. It's not called a dark ride because it's being placed in the dark, but it's because of the use of artificial illumination throughout. Without it, the attraction would be dark. The show building interior is then transformed through the use of sets, media, and animation into another place and time. And because we're using the form of a dark ride for this attraction, this is where we can take advantage of explicit storytelling. So explicit stories are the most intense form of storytelling in the theme park, in which the designer communicates a lot of information to the guest, leaving little room for interpretation. These are often rich in backstory with literal narratives, explicit guest roles, and frequent use of something goes wrong and tied up conclusions. So structurally, we are going to be using a dark ride, and we're going to be using explicit storytelling, and then like extra things. It's not just dark rides usually tend to use tracks, but you can also use trackless rides, which are more modern. They're also known as automated guided vehicles, or AGVs. It's a major development for the theme park, which dramatically reinvent many of the rules of attraction design. While most attractions are physically locked into a linear track, trackless rides break these rules, able to alter route, show length, speed, and sequence as it's required and applicable to the story. So with all that being said, how would this structurally be for, or story-wise, how would this be for this specific legend? I can see more of a house facade, and then in the queue, I want to take advantage of like the use of shadow through the windows, very glistening pieces of candy wrappers and teeth strewn about, things that will be immersive and interactive as well. See if there's any way that we can play around with maybe a form of like tapping. Maybe have guests tapping on these windows and she shall respond. Again, having the notes all over the place, using newspapers to kind of build up that story before our guests actually get onto the ride. And I think because we really want to build out a story, we might have to pad out a few things. But I think throughout the ride, you can be in the middle of this journey and know of the Candy Lady, and the something goes wrong kind of situation is usually you might be stalked by her. You might be one of those missing children, and how do you get out in this big resolution? So I think that's what I'm thinking for this kind of story, and to incorporate it in some way. I don't really want her to be a face character, because I think the creepiness and the scary factor of this story is that we don't know what she looks like. We can assume from what we look up, or kind of assume from the name given, but I think it's better off that you leave it to the imagination of the guest, because they will think of something a lot more scary to them than what we could ever show. So I think taking advantage of that mystery would really help build out this feeling of dread even before they even get onto the ride. So we want to build up that in the queue. Okay, now it's basically your turn. How do you think the Candy Lady should be presented in the park? Do you like my idea? Do you have other ideas of how it would work? Also, let me know of any other suggestions of legends that you'd like me to cover in the comments below. Thank you again to my Patreons for their support. Please like and subscribe if you liked today's video or anything else that I do, and I will see you all later. Bye-bye.